Okay, very good. Mike's on, guys. So good evening. I would like to call the July 7th, 2025 meeting of the Town of Cicero Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Ms. Robeson, please call the roll.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Please take note of the fire exits located in the front and the rear of this room. At this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, as also being recorded. At this time, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Has everyone read the minutes of our June 2nd, 2025 meeting?
Yes.
Are there any corrections? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second? Please call the roll.
Yes, the motion.
I wasn't here, so I'll abstain.
Yes to the motion. I also was not here, so I will abstain.
Yes to the motion. At this time, I will make a motion that all actions taken tonight are type 2 actions and have a negative impact that is no impact on the environment unless otherwise indicated. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Luckett, Ms. Robertson, please call the roll.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. We have proof that all items on tonight's agenda have been advertised as directed by law. I will briefly review the process for tonight's meeting for the benefit of those present that have never been before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Each applicant will have an opportunity to describe their project. The board will then ask questions about the project. I will then open a public hearing where people will be able to speak for or against the proposed variance. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to respond to public input and provide additional information. Board members will be allowed to ask follow-on questions. The board will openly discuss the 5 factors that contribute to the final decision. Please note that this board does not have a pre-agenda meeting, so there is no prior discussion of cases outside of this meeting. And then finally, a motion will be made either approving or denying the requested variance, seconded, and voted upon. So our first case tonight is an area variance for a property on 8813 English Road. The owner and applicant is Dan Andrianos. You wouldn't mind coming up and explaining your variance request, please?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I am Dan Andrianos, residing at 8813 English Road, my wife. Right. So I am here to submit for variance. I've handed packets with description and my reason for the request. I have extras here if anyone needs one with the maps and everything.
No, I've read it. Thank you.
Else need one? Okay, so I'm just going to read right from this. I purchased 2 adjacent properties in Cicero on different dates. I first purchased my home, which is located at 8813 English Road, in the year 2008. A few years later, I purchased the property adjacent to my backyard. That is on McKinley Road, actually. I'm the corner house on English and McKinley. So the piece that I purchased directly behind my home had a, before simple subdivision, it had an address of McKinley Road. So just to put that in perspective. At the time of the purchases of each property had an existing shed on it. The shed located at my home directly in the backyard, which you'll see on the following ensuing pages there. They're circled in different colors. The green one is directly in my backyard. And the yellow one is on the property that I had referenced that I had purchased a few years later. So again, at the time of the purchases of each property, each one had an existing shed on it. The shed located at my home decayed prematurely due to excessive water flow from my neighbor's sump pump discharge. He's a little bit higher than me. Not a lot of houses in that area have basements because there's a lot of groundwater specifically in that area. But every time he pumped out, it would flow directly into my yard, especially spring and fall. And it flooded it out. Unfortunately, the shed that was built there previous to my purchasing the house was in the lowest point of the yard. And every time the water discharge came through, it kind of pooled up there, and that's what caused that to become dilapidated early, I think prematurely. So, and the property that it was on, the shed that I had purchased, that the adjacent property to my yard, that dilapidated after many years. I do have overhead maps here from Google that I have attached on this. It would be the very last page, page 5. It goes back to 1995, showing that there had been one there, a shed in that exact same location for over 35 years. So after those two sheds had come to their demise and dilapidated, given the lack of storage due to the loss of those two sheds, I purchased a prefabricated shed, and I placed it in the exact location which the previous shed was located for over 35 years. At the time that I did that, I had no idea that a permit was required to do so. 3 years after that had been put in place, the replacement shed, and with no reported complaint, I was issued a code violation for not obtaining a permit to replace the shed. I've come to learn that according to Cicero Town Code, the only way I could keep the shed in its current location was to join the two properties and then seek a variance. So after spending thousands of dollars on consultation fees, surveying costs, filing fees, I have joined the two properties by completing the simple subdivision process, and I now submit my plea to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the reason for the request is a variance now is required due to the fact that after completing the simple subdivision, the property line, which was formerly considered a side boundary line, again, on McKinley Road, is now considered a rear boundary line, which, because it's, now English Road is the face of that. So given that, according to town code, it requires a greater setback. So I'm requesting a variance to leave it set in place. The front portion that is facing McKinley Road is about, I think it's 6.9 feet from the property line, 6.3.
I think it's 6.3, yeah.
Is that?
I think it's 6.3.
Yeah, 6.3, and that back is like 7.1 from the property line currently. And again, that's the exact same place where the previous shed had sat for over 35 years.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Steve, what was the reason why we told them to join the two properties together? What did we think we were going to pick up there?
Well, you're not allowed, so the shed before the subdivision or the lots were combined was considered a non-residential structure because it's not
Oh,
accessory to a principal
Because
use.
there was nothing else on the property. Okay. So then we joined the two properties together, then his side yard became a rear yard, and that's why we're in the
Right,
situation.
trying to
Okay.
get a variance the other way, you're looking at a use variance as well as an area
Yeah.
variance for.
I got you. It
minimum
would have been a lot
lot.
harder.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I'm following up. Thanks.
I have one for you too, Steve.
Mhm.
Underneath, the definition for accessory use or building, it says a shed can be 10 feet from the rear.
It's 192. He's bigger than 192.
But the square footage makes a difference. So a 12 by 16 shed could be 192 square feet because it's greater than that, then it has to be the 30.
Oh,
This is 12
okay,
by
I didn't
24.
pick that up. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
thanks.
So that gets to my other question. This is larger than the original shed that was there.
That is correct, yeah, because I lost two sheds. I bought a prefab that was a little bit larger and put it in place where that one was existing previously. Just for the record, I did not get. And speaking to my neighbor, Kudik Abrams, goes by Kevin, that lives in the house right next door, has no objection to this whatsoever, said he was willing to come in and speak or even write anything down to bring it in to let you guys know that. But I figured that would probably require, as a legal matter, some type of notary or something. So I didn't ask him to go through that, but certainly willing to do that if necessary.
Any other questions for now?
Steve, are you currently fining him? For that? No, okay.
That was the court, not
Yeah.
me.
No, 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 okay. Let
So
me
if I,
rephrase that.
I will kind of tag on that if it's okay with you.
No, I
guys.
was gonna, because I was gonna ask the question next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'll just tag page 2 here. I ask that you consider the following factors in my appeal. There's been a shed sitting on that same location, as I said, for many, many years without any issues. And in fact, what we can see from the records here, from the overhead maps, satellite maps, it's been over 35 years. And actually had a visit from the director and Officer Brian Johnstone quite a while back. And while they were there, I asked Code Enforcement Officer Johnstone if someone had complained about the shed, and he told me no. So that we have not received any complaints regarding that shed, as I am told by the code enforcement officer. The current shed placement, as I said, is in the exact same location, and it poses no danger to any structure or personal property. As I mentioned, I spoke with the neighbor, and he has no objection to leaving it in the current location. Just want to state that I'm not a builder. I'm not familiar with building codes. I simply replaced a dilapidated shed with a prefabricated shed without knowing that a permit was required to do so. I have spent thousands of dollars already to rectify a simple matter that no one really had an issue with for over the past 35 years. And I additionally now expect to pay anywhere between $2,500 and $10,000 more in fines, which are being imposed by the town of Cicero Court. So initially, when this came about, I spoke to my neighbor who was a realtor. And that person said, knowing, as I mentioned, that I'm not familiar with codes, didn't know I needed the permit. She said, let me put you in touch with somebody. So that counsel cost me quite a bit of money. And we came before the town on several occasions. I was merely just performing my due diligence. On several occasions, the town had to push it off another month, another month, another month. The judge one time got stuck in Waterloo. Another month got skipped. There was no court, and for different reasons, it went on for quite some time. When it came time that I was found guilty of not getting the permit, one of the things that was presented by the town's attorney to the judge was, this has been a year and a half at $250 a day. That comes out to $97,000. We don't think he should pay that fine. We're recommending $7,500. And at that time, the judge says, no, I'm going to make it $10,000. My attorney at the time stood up and said, if we can get this done legally and find a way to get this done legally and get approval, would you consider a lower fine? And he said, if you can get this done, I'll only fine you $2,500. So again, between what I've spent on having a new survey done, which was thousands, and what I spent on my counsel, which was thousands, and the simple subdivision and the fees and the submittals and everything, I'm already thousands and thousands into this. And as I said, I can expect to pay at least another $2,500 if approved. And if not, it's going to be a $10,000 fine, and I have to figure out a way to move that shed.
How did the shed get into place? Did they deliver it on a roll-off trailer or something?
Yeah, I was not there that day,
Okay.
but yeah, I think it was like a flatbed, probably something. I've seen them done. I wasn't there that
Yeah,
day,
okay.
but yeah, they just put like a couple of dollies under the corners, and they have like this little gas powered
Yeah.
mule type thing that just kind of pushes it onto the property. Yeah.
Steve, just a question about the process, because I'm a little confused now. A lot of the applicants that come in front of us with
Yeah.
this specific situation aren't actively being assessed fines. Is that correct? I mean, it seems
Say it again, I'm sorry.
a lot of applicants that come in front of us with
Yeah.
this type of situation, it seems like they're not actively being assessed fines by
Right.
the town. Can
That's
you shed
because
any
probably
light on
most
that?
of those cases didn't proceed to court. So this was
Okay,
ticketed,
so they're,
this was ticketed, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Was it, I'm sorry, I keep digging into this. So
Mhm.
was it just by nature of him getting a ticket? Or
Well,
was it,
So he was seeking another avenue for relief from this
Understood.
same, I believe, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Andrianos, but the argument I believe was a permit wasn't required because they had a shed there before. Was that?
We-
Right,
yeah,
the
we
argument-
Requested the grandfather,
Yeah.
the grandfather aspect, yep,
Okay,
okay,
yep, and that was denied
okay,
as.
I'm
as
clear
what
on the situation then.
submitted, But, one being a letter from my insurance company who stated that this is covered under personal property because it is not fixed to the ground. It's not a structure. And it would be covered under my, if anything ever happened with it, it would be covered under my personal property because it's not considered a structure as it's not fixed to the ground by any means.
Did you look at moving the shed at any time, given this whole situation, given the money you're spending? I mean, it would probably would have been cheaper to move the shed and just get into compliance.
After I was into it, I just stayed on that road. Another reason is, there's a stone pad there that I had put to kind of keep the moisture from rotting it. The one shed that was there before didn't have anything underneath it. And the wood had rotted and then it eventually started coming up through it. So I put stone underneath. Now there's stone underneath that to kind of keep it so it can breathe and not hold moisture underneath it. So that's another aspect of moving it. If I have to move it, it's move the shed, move the stone, then move the shed back onto the stone.
This is another procedural question. Don't the vendors, I'll ask both of you, of these sheds typically, don't they know they're supposed to get a permit? I mean,
I mean,
they're in that business.
we ask this all the time, but I know the reality of the situation is that you sell somebody a shed, you want to deliver that shed. So there's a lot of not paying attention to what the actual law is. I mean, anybody who sells a shed in Cicero should know you need a permit to put it in place. It's just,
Kind of a no-brainer, but
sometimes you can. And then when when the property owner doesn't know that you need it, it kind of makes a doubly bad situation. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? I'll just note that there is no one in attendance except for the applicants and us. At this time, I will close the public hearing. Any other questions?
No, I would just think that because the shed builder / developer installed it illegally, that maybe you could negotiate with them and have them come back and move it for free. They put it in the wrong place. You're going through all of this because they put it in the wrong place without getting the permit.
Well, they put it where I told
they
them to
put-
put
yeah.
it, asked
Okay,
them to put
okay.
it, because, and again, there had
Of
been
course.
there for
Yeah.
35 years.
Gotcha. Okay,
So I didn't know it was wrong.
okay,
No one knew that it was
Okay.
wrong.
okay.
How big was the shed that was there? Do you know? I didn't think I saw that anywhere in the packet.
I don't have that information. It was probably, I'd have to say like maybe 10 by 10, 10 by
Okay.
12.
A little bit smaller.
Yes. Yeah. Again, what's there now is kind of makes up about the size of the two combined. The one that was directly in my backyard was a bit smaller. The one that's in the green circle there on the map on page 3.
I mean, there was a shed there. I mean, here's my thought process, right?
Yes.
There's a shed there. Um, you know, he probably should have done his due diligence with a building permit, right? I mean, that's most of us know that at this point, but I mean, we're going to answer, could the applicant achieve his goals via another alternative? Yes. Is it substantial? Yes. Whether it's been self-created? Yes. But we're going to have to figure out how to cope with that, right? Because
Yes.
like I said, just thinking out loud for myself.
Nope, I have all the same concerns. So with that, would someone like to review the 5 factors? I'll point out that I did the last one, so it's,
Is that something that I could see online or something like that? Or do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy right here if you'd like it. It's just a blank one. You're welcome.
I can take a stab at it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so 5 factors, whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties would be created. I'm gonna say no, because there's been a shed there. Because the neighbor is, agreeable to its location. It's set far back from McKinley. And there's lots of space between the neighboring house and the shed.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. I'm gonna say yes. However, I mean, he could move that, the lot's 30 feet wide, he could move it 30 feet closer to his house. You know, avoid the patio. I don't think that's a favorable location for the applicant. But it's awkward. And there may be drainage issues there too, which he's, talked about. But I'm gonna say yes, can he move it? Can he achieve it by some other method?
Yeah, I mean, he clearly could achieve it by some other method. What I keep going back to is there was a shed there for a number of years. The neighbors appear, the immediate neighbor appears to have no issue with it. So, you know, again, to answer the question, there's another way to solve this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There is another way to solve it, but as mentioned, there was a shed there. Didn't seem to be any disruption to the environment or the neighborhood previous to this.
I would agree, and I would also add that for me, it is not necessarily a reason to deny.
I agree, and I would further add that sometimes with the best intentions, we wind up becoming a victim of the definitions in the code book, and this turning into a backyard. I think that that's a somewhat unusual situation, maybe not expected, and should probably be taken into account when we make our decision.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial, yes. He wants a rear yard setback of 6.3, where 30 is required. That's 23.7 feet more, or a 79% variance. That's substantial, but also not a reason to deny.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I said no, it's a small shed on a relatively large lot.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, yes, the applicant is choosing to construct or has constructed a shed on a non-conforming shed.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I would agree, and I would also add that we get a lot of cases in here of installation prior to having a building permit for it, and the continual refrain from everyone is that I didn't know that the law was there. So I just want to remind everybody that as a citizen of the town of Cicero, it's important to actually know what the laws are that you're dealing with. But again, I agree with that statement. So ready to make a motion, Terry?
Yes, who's I write it?
Absolutely.
So I make a motion on behalf of Dan Andrianos of 8813 English Road in Brewerton to approve an area variance where the applicant is requesting approval to keep a 12-foot by 24-foot accessory shed having a rear yard setback of 6.3 feet or a minimum distance of 30 feet is required.
Second.
When you're ready, please call the roll.
Yes, the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. Motion passed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, our second case tonight is an area variance for a property on 104 Kreischer Road. The owner and applicant is Pamela Tucker. Ms. Tucker, if you're present, if you want to come up and explain your variance for us, please.
Well, I too, a shed not knowing I needed to permit.
Oh, ma'am, one second. We're gonna do some audio adjustment for you there. All right, very good.
So, yeah, when I had purchased a shed, I purchased it because I had moved from a 3-story house to a 2-story house. And I had 3 storages that I was paying for, costing me about $500 a month. And I was in Fulton driving by and I happened to see these sheds, and that's what kind of prompted me to think about getting a shed to be able to put all my stuff in it. I had my garage filled as well. So that was the initial purpose and reasoning for me to buy the shed. And once again, it was never mentioned, that I would need a permit from the person I purchased it from. It never occurred to me that I would need a permit. There is a small shed presently there, as you could see. However, it's near enough space for storage of what I needed. No idea how much stuff I had until I moved. So that being said, that was and then after I thought, once I get to go through everything and eliminate 90% of it, which I've not even tip of the iceberg at this point with that, that it would be a nice little place to, something to have there. It has a lot of area there. And again, I don't think it was interfering. I didn't think it was interfering with anything. I really don't know. This was new to me. And I did want to also put a 6-foot fence. I have a 13-year-old and I have a dog, and I typically have done foster care. So, I did have a fence put in the front for those reasons as well. The front, it's a super nice yard, but it's very noisy. So the back area would be ideal to kind of just have another space to be able to, enjoy the backyard of what I have there. It's actually a side yard, not more than, rather than a backyard. So the fence really, I is about 11 feet from the initial roadside. It would come up along the side of the existing fences of a metal fence that runs behind me. And I was just really going to try to butt with a 6-foot fence, which is fair to say, I think it was fair to say about 7 feet from the actual property line, to my side, coming up behind a tree. And I don't know if you guys have any pictures, but I do if you need to see any pictures. And then butting it up to my existing shed, and then having another section. So it would really just kind of encase that backyard, that side area. So, and it only came to my attention when I did come in to ask for some permits. I had some other work done, and I'm learning a lot of things I wasn't aware of. So I'm just trying to navigate through all this and to make do. It is when I purchased it, it's being honest, a rent to own kind of thing. And I thought, well, again, I'm saving $250 a month by having that for storage. And then at the same token, I would intend to using it for personal use once I was kind of done with storing.
Chris, would you mind bringing up the actual photos for us? Do you get a lot of traffic going to the DMV in that plaza there coming through Bellevue?
The most traffic really is on Kreischer Road.
Okay,
Kreischer and
yeah,
Taft,
it's
it's super busy, like nonstop, right?
I drive by there 4 times a day.
Yeah, Bellevue, it's really not so bad, you know, I mean, there's certainly traffic because, you know, as you know, there's 3 ways to get into that DMV.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody uses that particular road there.
Mhm.
And there's plenty enough clearance from the tree, because the fence would come up and it would come just behind the tree, which still leaves an additional almost 12 feet from the fence to the road with, and I have other pictures here if you want to see any, you know, a little more, because I know you have just a few showing the existing, you know, area on to the left of it, which is just it's an open lot. I don't even know who owns it. And then, yeah, okay, so you can see that there too. Yeah. And the woman that lives next door, she's been there 30 years. And so not for nothing, her fence is a good half a foot or so on my property line, just not a problem for me. And I asked her if that wasn't, you know, bothering her at all, and she's like, not at all. She too has a storage, probably fair to say, size and a half bigger than that, behind her house, which is roughly, fair to say, 8 feet from my house with the fence in between. But she said it's been there for about 30 years and she don't think they've had to have a permit then. So, because I told this is all new to me. So I don't know.
Did you say you were having other work done on the home?
Yes.
Did you have a permit for the other work?
Well, I didn't originally be, but because the contractor was supposed to get the permit, but I did come and get a permit for a ground deck that I put on the front of the house.
Okay.
Um,
And that's what led to this?
What led to this was meeting her down there about the work she wanted to do and discovering the shed.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. That she had asked about it. She didn't, the company don't know. That'll get-
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same
Yep.
old story,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
yeah.
1,000
You
times.
don't know that you don't know till you know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially.
And you said once you clear it out, you're gonna use it for, you said personal use, or is it gonna be a shed? I want to make sure I understand what.
Yeah, well, you
Talking
know,
about.
right now it's just a ton of storage of stuff that
Okay.
I've got to get rid of them. But I have a 13-year-old, you know, that likes to do art and things of that sort. So it's just really going to be like, you know, a place just to have.
Okay.
There's a good size yard there. And again, it'll probably be semi-storage and just semi, you know, use just for,
Okay.
you know, an
Like a
oversized
studio of
playhouse.
sorts,
Sorry.
like a studio of sorts or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you know, another place to be, you know, when you're, you know, it's a duplex that I'm in. We're on the top level. The first floor is a little bit different, but so, you know, when you know, the idea would be, you know, it's just another place to kind of hang out, if you'd say, you know, just to be, and for, you know, semi-storage and just, you know, my kid, you know, I thought of, you know, kind of setting up a little art studio thingy for her and music and things of that nature.
Are you gonna run power out to it?
There's no power. I suppose if you needed to run extension cord, if you ever wanted to do something, that's far from my thoughts right at this point in time.
Did you consider putting it in? I know it's on the right-hand side of the house. I guess you have 2 backyards. Is that how you're treating that? The front yard is off of Kreischer and then.
Yeah, you want put in the front of the house? No.
Oh, the front on Kreischer, have you ever considered that rather than? I get, which door are you using as your front door?
Well, we use both because that's actually considered a commercial property because it was once. So I have the front with 4-car parking. And then I have the side door where the garage is. So, I mean, we really use them both. If I had my way, I'd have a 6-foot fence in the front yard with an in-ground pool. But I don't have that kind of money and I don't have my way right now, just saying, you know, but you know, it's just, it's home right now. And I'll be honest, the first level I had contemplated, you know, maybe considering doing daycare because I've did foster care for many years. And I'm just working now full time. And I have the 13-year-old that I adopted last year that I've had since she was 6. So I'm not making any fast decisions of one way or another. I'm just trying to still unpack and settle.
Mhm.
It's hard to do when you're working and doing everything else.
Steve, is this property zoned commercial or is it zoned? residential?
It's own commercial,
Zone commercial.
and the residential use is allowed when it's attached to approved commercial use, and that location has been commercial with the residential
Okay.
aspect. I don't know what the occupancy was, maybe a hair salon or something downstairs at one time, I don't remember.
It was an older man and he was an engineer and a lot of office space. So it's a big open area that had segments of office space there.
Can there be multiple accessory structures in a GC zoned?
Well, yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
short answer.
Okay, that's fair enough. You're gonna keep the other shed as well? Is that the plan, to keep the other shed?
You know, I'd hate to get rid of it because it's a nice shed, but if I had I'm still on the fence about it. You know, ultimately, I would rather get rid of that one if, and, you know, in the future if need to be, but it's just there right now and, I think at some point I may move it. I don't know.
So Steve, I'm a little confused
Mhm.
because I'm used to in other towns
Mhm.
zoning. It's zoned commercial and now it's being used as residential.
No, it was always used as residential.
It was all, really?
Yeah, so in the commercial district, you're allowed to have an attached dwelling with an approved commercial use.
Okay.
In all commercial districts,
Okay.
and that's what this
Okay,
location
yeah, that's
was.
different.
And
Okay.
is, yeah.
Other questions? Okay. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone speak for this? Would anyone speak against this? And just note that it's only us in attendance and no public. At this time, I will close the public hearing. Any other questions?
Well, we didn't talk much about the fence, but, you know, having driven by there multiple times, you know, certainly a little bit in the last week or so. Yeah, I get it, right? I mean, it's a super open area and there's not a lot of privacy. And I know she said there's not a lot of cars going down that road, but the day I drove down, there was 3 or 4 cars coming out of the apartment complex.
Yes.
Going to Kreischer and then coming in behind me, going to SOS, but, so I don't, you know, in my mind, I get what she's trying to do. I get what she's trying to do with the fence. You know,
Yeah, it's a mixed use area. So I get it as well.
Yeah, I was there again this afternoon and noted the visibility of that side yard from the parking lot. So I get the fence also.
And it doesn't show on your survey, but you intend to continue the fence past the smaller shed?
No, I can't.
Or you're gonna leave that open?
Butt it up to the back corner of it and then from the front left corner of the shed to the house, another section. So it would be
Oh, I got you.
really
Okay.
encased. Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
And it's not gonna probably happen anytime soon, but it's just kind of the future thought and plan.
Just realize you may have a set amount of time once you do this, you're gonna have a set
I
amount of
think that was
time.
Mentioned, yes.
1 year.
1 year?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
say that again. You said something about connecting a fence to the house. I don't see that in the survey here. Is that?
It's not, I think.
The shed.
The shed.
It would be from the back of the shed to the house.
Mark's gonna go, yeah, from here to the house, I believe.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, that makes more sense to me anyway. Yeah.
There's a telephone pole there in front of oh no, that's not gonna be a problem. I'm thinking about that guide wire, but I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, it's there, you know, I wish it wasn't, but it is. It's
I
not gonna
don't-
be,
I don't think it interferes with your
not gonna,
fence plan.
yeah.
Is that gonna be inside your fence or outside the fence?
It actually will be kind of inside,
It looked like inside, yeah.
but again, it's the fence is gonna come just to
Oh,
the other side of it, so it's not like it's invading any of the
Yeah,
area that,
I mean,
you know.
the
what I
fence is gonna almost be touching it, right? Based on
Right,
what
yeah.
what I saw when I drove by.
Were you trying to save those trees?
Well, you know, I love trees. They're old and it's obvious there's been a lot of things taken off those trees. I hope they'll withstand the the new weather it seems like we're facing, being honest, but it's my intention to keep them as forever, as long as, you know, reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, your only option to move that around is to take out a tree or two.
Yeah, it's just it's a perfect space where it still allows all the extra space to be utilized. And there's a lot of roots to the other side. You know, it's more bumpy and what have you. I mean, that was just a better fit.
Would anyone like to review the 5 factors if there's no other questions?
I could do it.
All right.
All right, so whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, I would say no. There's a lot of residential use in that area, and like Mr. Bick referenced mixed use, I'm sure there's plenty of other fences in the area. I think if I lived in that home, I would also want a fence in that area to keep, you know, especially if you have children or something like that in the yard.
I think the fence is actually going to improve the look
Yeah.
of the area, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So.
I agree.
I agree.
I also agree the addition of a fence, I think, is a positive here. And as far as the shed location, this area is such a mixed bag of construction anyways. I don't think anything we do here is going to make a positive impact on that. So again, I agree.
Do we want to, I just realized, do we want to attack these in the shed and the fence separately or together?
Why don't we, that's a good, let's talk about the fence,
And
then address the shed.
okay. All right, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance, no. I mean, if you want a fence, that's, I think with this lot, no matter what, being on a corner like that, and it's kind of an odd setup, you would have to have a variance no matter what.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
For the fence, I agree.
Whether the requested variance is substantial. I would say no. You're 2 feet over on height, 33% roughly. And then 50% versus fully opaque. I don't think it's necessarily substantial.
I disagree. I think it is. Just because you're going from 50% to, I always get this wrong.
I know it's
100% or 0%, whatever the right word is, but I think it is substantial personally.
I think it's substantial too, but not a reason to deny it.
Same. I agree it's substantial, but no reason to deny it.
I would agree that it is substantial, but it's not different from other situations that we've experienced here on these unusually shaped lots with 2 front yards.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood? I would say no, and I would revert back to what a couple other people have set up here that I think will actually be an improvement.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, I will say yes. Simply wanting a fence makes it self-created, but it is not necessarily a reason to deny.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree. Now the shed.
2 separate motions or 1 motion?
I think we can do it in one
Okay.
motion.
All right, so whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to property, this is in regards to the shed. I would also say no. It's kind of tucked in there behind that hedgerow. So I don't think, I mean, I know it's already there, but I don't think most people probably even noticed when you put it there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I had the same reaction when I
Yeah.
drove by, without having any specifics on the property. I was shrugged my shoulders when I saw it.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with a neighboring large commercial property. It's relatively inconsequential.
I agree, and with some of the same stipulations that I had before, but I also feel that the fence is gonna provide some shielding to it too, where you're not gonna notice it even more.
Okay, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance. I would say no. Your desire to have that storage on your property and the trees and things that are already there, I don't really see where there's a better place for you to put it.
Yeah, I agree. When I looked at alternate locations, when I went over there, I just don't see a good spot to do it, right? I mean, there's not a lot of good alternates.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree, and I think what some of the other board members were getting at was maybe moving it to the other side of the house, but that really, that again, that looks like a front yard, and I really wouldn't advocate for putting a structure in the front yard.
Okay, whether the requested variance is substantial, I would say yes, 92% variance. So I think that it's substantial, but I don't necessarily think it's a reason to deny in this case.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree, and I would add that the trees are a mitigating factor in this situation.
Would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? I would say no. It's a small shed. I don't see it being any detriment to physical or environmental situations in the neighborhood.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, much like the fence, just the fact that you wanted the extra storage, wanted a shed makes it self-created, but not necessarily a reason to deny.
I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion on behalf of Pamela Tucker, 104.
Just to be
Absolutely.
technically correct here, I noticed probably a setback or variance that we need to include that I neglected the front yard setback. I didn't have written
Oh.
up in here. Just kind of goes away because the house is closer anyways, but it looks like you're 29.4 where 50 is necessary.
On a GC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you looking
Yeah,
at
that is,
Cicero?
that
There it
is,
is.
so you've got the 33.4 with minus the 4 for the deck, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
It's additional.
all right, so let's see.
Thank
if
you
we
for
can-
catching that,
let's
Steve.
see if we
That's
can
my fault. I just found out.
fashion
all
up
of a
this
sudden.
motion. All right, so I will make a motion on behalf of Pamela Tucker, 104 Kreischer Road, an area variance for a proposed 6-foot high, completely opaque fence in the required front yard where fences no higher than 4 feet and 50% opaque are allowed, and to allow a 20 by 10 accessory shed to remain. It has a rear yard setback of 2 feet where 25 feet is required, a side yard setback of 5.2 feet where 15 feet is required, and a front yard setback of 29.4 feet where 50 feet is required.
Yeah.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Yes, to the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Rest of the motion.
Yes to the motion.
Yes to the motion. Motion carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
We'll get in touch with you. All right. We'll get your permit approved and then we'll let you know when that's ready. Okay? All right? Yep.
Thank you.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So by my count, the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 4th. Is there any other business before the board? Okay, there being no other business before this board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.